I really hate to say it, wanted money. My mom's worth $500,000 that I get when she dies. My mom is dementia and doesn't half the time know who we are.
Right.
Has been living alone in a condo. And I know that sounds really morbid and stuff like that, but I am a life insurance person. But if I really wanted money, there was an easier way than trying to combat somebody that's physically stronger than me. And the doctor said, yeah, she's got a little bit of problems, whatever. She's 77, whatever. Does she have dementia? No. Do we say that in our family? Heck yeah. Because to us it was like, oh, there goes Grandma again. She's got Alzheimer's. We do all the jokes. And when people ask, yeah, to me she had dementia.
Right.
By a neurologist, she did not. That's why she was placed in that home, and that's why it was no threat to be on the 3rd floor.
Right.
But to everybody else on this planet, I took a 210-pound woman and threw her through railings. How do you do that? How does a man do that?
Mm-hmm. Well, to everyone, well, yeah, I know how stories get out of hand. For whatever reason, they like to make stories up.
Hello and welcome to Here's the Pitch, sponsored by Massa's Restaurants in St. Louis. 5 locations. stlmassas.com is their website. You can go there, check out those menus. If you're in St. Louis, you're driving through, you're going to a ball game, you have a weekend plan, you're going to see the Cardinals take on the whoever's, and you want some good pasta, you want some good pizza, you want some of that St. Louis toasted ravioli, you go to Massa's Restaurants and you can check those out. stlmassas.com. You can get directions and menus and take a look at what you're going to eat before you go there. I'm your YouTube friend, Brad, and yes, there is a Massa's up there near Troy, Missouri, near O'Fallon, Missouri. Why we're doing this podcast today? Again, we're talking about the thing about Pam. I can't get enough of it. Can you? Have you been watching the series on NBC? It's over pretty much now, but a 6-part series. Renee Zellweger playing Pamhupp. And I've already done one podcast with the lawyer of Russ Faria, the man who was suspected of killing his wife. Of course, he did not, and he was exonerated. So I talked to his lawyer a few weeks back, and now you're going to see Russ Faria along with Joel. And we have more questions to ask about this. So if you haven't seen this first episode I did with just Joel, we covered the bare bones, the bare basics, put some Pamhupp clips in that one too, so you can laugh and have a good time looking at this woman who clearly... can you say has a screw loose? I think you can say. I just said it. But now we're going to have a chance to talk to Russ Faria, see how he's doing, get his thoughts about just the way this thing is all played out, and he will be with Joel. We're going to have that interview here in a second, but first, have you seen the people who've been on the show? Well, let's take a look at some of my favorite memories and people who come on the show to promote books and things like that here on Here's the Pitch. It's Mick Foley. Oh my goodness, you're going to be in St. Louis at the Helium Comedy Club on September 7th, September 8th. Charlie Barons, there he is over there. Again, if you watch here in St. Louis, he's coming here to Helium. You're going all across the Midwest. We do have on the phone Tom Green.
This is great. You did a great job. Great interview. Absolutely. Come see my shows this weekend starting tonight at Helium here in St. Louis.
That is Greg Fitzsimmons.
And then when I was in St. Louis, I did the Helium Club.
March 4th and March 5th. It's Mike Malloy. There's Mike Malloy. Hello, Mike Malloy. You're going to be in St. Louis and having some helium.
I am. I'm very excited about it.
Jim Florentine is my guest. While you're here in St. Louis, you're doing some more stand-up. You can take a look at jimflorentine.com for all of Jim's exciting news. But you're releasing a YouTube special on Monday the 13th.
Obviously, you want a Netflix deal, but you can't get that, which is limited. You put it on Netflix and people watch it for free, and a lot more people will see it.
This is sort of what you guys all do, right? It's like, hey, I'm going to do some stand-up, I'm going to do some videos, I'm going to do a podcast.
The days are gone when you can just be a stand-up comedian.
One of my regrets is I didn't stick around TNA longer. Hulk and I had a dramatic face-off in the ring, and I was thinking, oh, we could have a match.
Mike Malloy, MikeMalloy.com. You can obviously find him on Twitter. He's going to be at Helium in St. Louis on March 4th and March 5th.
Okay, who else might you have lied to?
Anybody that would bug me and bug me and bug me and bug me.
Did the detectives bug you and bug you?
Yeah.
So you might have lied to them?
No.
What year did you graduate from Naples College?
Probably 87 or 90. Not sure.
You're not sure?
What year I graduated college?
Yes.
Yes, I'm not sure.
Well, that's just some of the odd behavior of Pam Hupp, and now I bring in Joel Schwartz once again, and then luckily today we have Russ Faria. Russ, Joel, thank you guys for joining me today. Russ, good to meet you, good to see you. How are things where you are today, Russ?
Things are really good. I'm living my best life and getting, doing normal things, but also getting out there and raising awareness. It's very important to me to raise awareness for wrongful convictions and for things like prosecutorial immunity, because there's organizations out there like the Innocence Project that I've been working with and have done some fundraisers for. And there's just not enough awareness for those type of organizations and for those type of things. And people like me and Ryan Ferguson, Rodney Lincoln are all banding together to try and change the world a little bit. And with help from Joel, you're doing that. And I want to just talk to Joel for a second because we did this last time, and hopefully you've seen some book sales, because my channel has seen a lot of activity on this subject. People cannot get enough. And Joel, you wrote a book, and that's sort of how we started connecting. Tell us again how that's doing. Bone Deep: Untangling the Murders of the Betsy Faria murder case. I'm almost through it. I'll just let people know it's so detailed. It's like a diary almost. So if you've seen the Dateline, you're watching the show, there's even more to know. And I really appreciate how we kind of get some backstory about you, a little bit about Russ. Just tell us a little bit about, and again, you can get this wherever, Amazon books, on your Kindle, on your iPhone, like how I'm reading it. There's an audio book too. So thanks again for joining us. How are things with the book? And just tell us how things are going with you.
Oh, thanks a lot, Brad. The book sales have been well beyond anything that we could have imagined. And I also want to make sure we get this in, that I co-wrote the book with Charles Bosworth. And Charles probably carried the laboring oar on the actual writing of the book, but we did work together. With that said, it's been wonderful. Amazon has been great. Our publisher's been great. And what's happened is, with the word of mouth by people like you and your podcast, is once people think that they know the story, either through the Dateline podcast or individual podcasts or the TV series, it's piqued their interest to read the book. Once they read the book, the reviews have been wonderful. They talk about it with other people, and word of mouth continues to generate book sales. And then every time the series airs on Tuesday night, by Wednesday and Thursday, book sales are through the roof once again.
Russ, are you watching this thing? Can you watch it? How does it work at your home on 9 o'clock Tuesday nights, NBC?
I have been watching it, and actually I missed last week because I was on vacation in sunny Florida, and but we'll be watching the actual final 2 episodes tonight when it airs. So we'll start a little bit early, and I've been doing, except for the last couple weeks, I've been doing some live Instagram directly following the episodes, just to answer folks' questions that they may have about the episode or about the ordeal in general. And I think it's been really good. They put it together really well, and they've tried to squeeze 10 years into 6 hours. So, there's a lot of things in the story that you won't see in the movie. Well, and that's what I was saying as I was watching this with my wife last week. I'm like, how is this the last episode coming up? There seems like there's so much more. There's been some criticism about the comedic feel, the dark comedy feel of it, you being so close to it. How does it make you feel that there is that tinge of dark comedy? Pam is sort of this, almost comedic character. I mean, she's kind of, it's like a Fargo, like I kind of compare it to, where the bumbling criminal just continues to bumble. Well, and actors and movies do embellish things a bit, but one of the biggest questions that I've had from folks is, did these people really act that way? And my answer is yes. The people that are being portrayed as ridiculous in the show behaved ridiculously and in fact are still behaving ridiculously. Leah, whatever she wants to call herself these days, it started out as Womack, went to ASCII, and now she's Cheney because she married her high school teacher. She still says she's never been brought any information to make her believe that I didn't do it. Officer McCarrick is teaching at the Missouri Police Academy and uses my case as one of his subjects. And if you disagree with him, he kicks you out of his class. So, you know, those people behaved ridiculously and they're being portrayed that way and they don't like it. But sometimes the truth hurts.
Joel, I mean, you know, this was kind of later that I was going to ask about this, but can they be tried? Can there be any sort of punishment for the things that Russ has had to go through, and just in general, when there's a wrongful death case and someone is, you know, fully exonerated, is it possible to go back? Because as you watch this show, you just see all the mistakes that were made by pretty much everybody, and almost as if we talked about this the first time, they wanted to just get this done, move on, get the election. Can you try Leah Askey and the detective and the judge, or how does that work?
The short answer is yes, with many, many hurdles and obstacles. You have the hurdle of immunity, which is what Russ has alluded to with prosecutorial immunity. You have statutory problems because of the length of the time that has occurred. And then you have proof problems. For example, we don't know what Ryan McCarrick or Leah Askey actually knew at the time. We know what was presented. We don't know if the mistakes were made. We don't know if they were intentional. So you have all those hurdles. What there was a remedy civilly where Russ sued Lincoln County as well as the police and the prosecutor. And there was a substantial settlement for a couple of $1 million. And that is one way they can be punished, although they don't personally feel the sting of that. As Russ stated, McCarrick is teaching. He's still on the force and fluorescent. Although, given the publicity that this has now received, I can't imagine that they're getting much respect within the community or with at least their professional peers.
And my other question to piggyback on that is, again, this is pure speculation. How often does this happen where you see a whole team of a DA and not a judge, because that just seems so far-fetched that the judge and the DA are best friends from high school. Not best friends, but just the fact that this seemingly shouldn't happen this way, but hey, we've got a suspect and he's not going to, you know, admit to it, and he's not going to confess, but all the evidence that we don't even really have. But we just want to finish this up. It's an easy case because it looks like the husband did it. How often does that happen, do you think? Is there a percentage? Does it happen more than I hope it doesn't happen, I guess is my question?
The answer is it happens way too often. To actually put a percentage or a number on it is impossible. But the wrongful convictions that we learn of, the prosecutorial misconduct, the police misconduct that we learn of, sometimes a decade, 2 decades, even 3 decades after the fact, are too numerous to count. What we don't know is the numbers that we don't learn about. And it's got to be astronomical because there is very little oversight when you're the head prosecutor. In this case, there was no oversight on Leah Askey, with the exception of me attempting to do my job. But then I was thwarted at every turn by the judge who's supposed to oversee at least the trial aspect of the case. Fortunately, in this case, there was a record made and we did things appropriately, and the Court of Appeals sent this back to the trial court so fast, at least in legal terms, it'll make your head spin. That is a long-winded answer to a short question. Is the numbers are impossible and we don't know. And my heart goes out to these people who have been wrongfully accused, wrongfully convicted, especially if it's due to some sort of prosecutorial misconduct. And Russ, along with Ryan Ferguson and Rodney Lincoln, people he's talked about, have been on a crusade to do everything they can, I along with them, to keep this from happening.
I agree with Joel that I feel that there's really no way to put a number on it. You hear about Russ Faria, you hear about Ryan Ferguson, Rodney Lincoln, Adam Brazil. The list goes on. But for every one of us that you hear about in the news, there's probably 10 guys or women that were wrongfully convicted.
Tell me, Russ, because I got to be quite honest. I don't think I've ever had the chance to ask someone who's been convicted or wrongfully convicted, sitting in prison or jail, waiting for your trial. What was that time period like? It was basically 2 years of your life where you're sitting there and we know how the system works. It takes forever for trials to happen. Just give me your thoughts as, we've seen on the show where they come busting into the house, you go to, and now you're there. And what were those years like for you? What was it okay? Was it terrible? Tell me just the couple years there while you're waiting for trial.
Well, we waited for the first trial, and so I spent all of my time in the county jail until after the trial, and I was convicted and went to prison. And jail and prison are two different animals. But you do what you have to survive and make it through. And some people are stronger than others. Another friend of mine recently said, you'll get a lot further by being a nice guy than being a tough guy when you're in one of these situations. And it's true. I'm a likable guy. I tend to get along with all kinds of different people from all kinds of different diversities and lifestyles. So for me, my survival instinct, I guess, kicked in, and I tried to get along with everybody that I could, even the biggest, meanest, toughest guy in there. He's still a man. And if you talk to him like a man and treat him with respect, usually you'll get that in return. So I did what I needed to stay under the radar. Joel told me to keep my nose clean and stay out of trouble. But it was just a matter of being patient. And when you're in a situation like that, if you've ever had trouble with patience, you'll learn it very fast.
I would guess. Yeah, it's just so unfortunate. Can you think about how your life was, the days before December 27th, 2011? I mean, how do you combat just thinking about how just in one moment, not only, do you lose your wife to a brutal murder, but then your life changes. Some people just have to deal with the grieving. You don't even get to grieve. Do you think about just how your life was and how was it going? Were things just hunky? I know, Betsy obviously had cancer and it wasn't great, but just tell me a little bit about, how things were going and what it's like for your life just in one day to change.
Well, we had our problems in the past, and then you see that in the book and in other stories in the media. But for the previous couple of years, we had been doing really well, and we were facing the fact that Betsy had terminal cancer and wasn't going to be with us very much longer. And she was doing what she needed to prepare herself for that, because, they gave us 3 to 5 years. But you don't know. There could be less than that. It could be more, I know people that have been given 3 to 5 years and they're still walking 10 years later, and I talk to them every day. I was living my life, a 9 to 5 IT geek, I guess you could call me. Worked from home at a desk and, went and played role-playing games with my friends or watched movies, and just a normal life like anybody else. And that's one of the things I talk about when we talk about wrongful convictions, is it could happen to anybody. It could happen to you, somebody and your life is flipped and turned upside down in a matter of a blink of an eye. And you don't have time to grieve or anything else. You have to deal with what you have to deal with. And sometimes it's hard to do. And the strong ones make it through. I'm fortunate enough that I had a really good support system. My cousin Mary was fighting for me on the outside, and she told me early on in this that to take care of myself on the inside and take care of what I needed to take care of, and she would take care of everything on the outside. She's 5 months younger than me, and we grew up like twins. And she has my utmost trust, and so I put that in her hands, and she hired Joel. And if it wasn't for them and many others in my family and friends that were out there fighting for me, and I also like to credit Chris Hayes and the people at Dateline. Those two media outlets were very important. Chris Hayes in the local news here in St. Louis was reporting on my story at least once a month. So keeping it out there in people's minds, I think, helped me get my appeal as fast as I did. The average time for an appeal in the state of Missouri is 10 to 14 years. Ryan Ferguson was inside for 10 years for something he did.
Yeah. Tell me, so the interrogation process, I'm going to ask both of you that. Joel, we've all seen the video. We've seen how long it went for him, for Russ. How do you think Russ did? Russ, how do you think it went? And tell us just, because this is always, any part of the making a murderer, the Ryan Ferguson Dream Killer on Netflix, this case, this is where you see the people that have been wrongly accused basically telling it, I didn't do it. What are you supposed to do, Joel? I mean, and I know we've talked before. Is it just, I'm not saying anything. What are you supposed to do? And Russ, once Joel answers, I'd like to just get your thoughts on what you thought, how it went, and what you think you should have done.
For Russ's credit, he spent 36 hours in their custody answering every single question they had. And then they came in with another crew of police officers and asked the same questions again. And then they gave him a BS polygraph that was not video recorded. They said it wasn't functioning, and they told him that he failed 100%. It showed 100% deception, which isn't a possibility. And then they spent over an hour, approximately an hour and a half, in an attempt to get him to confess to something he didn't do. Thank goodness for Russ's intestinal fortitude, where he continued to say, look, you can think what you want, but I didn't do this. I actually counted, it's in the book, he said it 77 times while they continued to talk to him. It wasn't until almost an hour and a half later when he finally said, okay, then I want an attorney. And that wasn't even the end of it. After I was representing him, one of the officers, Ryan McCarrick, pulled him out of his cell, said that I didn't ask any guilt-seeking questions, but that's simply not true. He attempted another time to get Russ to confess to this heinous crime, which he obviously did not do. The answer to your question is you ask for a lawyer. It's what you do.
Russ, your thoughts of just how those days went, and if you could go back in time, maybe just if you knew, you don't know, right? I mean, you're just there and you have to do what they say.
No, you don't know. And you're taught from the time you're a child that, police are there to help you. And the other thing that you're taught from the time you're a child is tell the truth. And so I was doing everything my mother taught me, my father taught me growing up, telling the truth and telling it again and again several times. As Joel said, I said 77 times that I didn't do it. I didn't know that count until then, but I think if I had to do it over again, and I certainly wouldn't want that, but if I had to do it over again, as soon as they took me to the police station, I would have shut up and asked for a lawyer at that point.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, what happens too many times in this country and probably across the world is police officers don't try to solve a crime, and they don't know how to solve a crime. What they try to do is they find somebody that they think might have done the crime or that they could put it on, and they try to get a confession.
When did you learn?
That's what Ryan McCarrick did to me. He tried to bully me, called me out of my cell, not once, but twice. The second time was because I wrote a nasty letter about him. He didn't like me calling him a monkey. But he also, and he wrote a report that he didn't file because it never happened, but he sent another inmate in there to rough me up and get a confession out of him. And the other inmate actually decided he wasn't going to do that, and we acted like we fought, and then they came and pulled him out of there. So it didn't work out for Ryan in that particular case.
When did you learn of Pam Hupp? When did you kind of know that this was a person that'd be in your life? I mean, it didn't seem like when you see the show or you read the book, or you really didn't. She's sort of a fringe person, right? Like, did you know much about her, and how long had she been kind of around Betsy and you guys?
Well, they had been coworkers and friends at work, and so I never really had too much contact with her. I'd met her a handful of times at some work functions, when they have awards or parties. They were in the insurance industry. And beyond that, I mean, if I went there to meet Betsy for lunch or something, we'd have a little high and by type thing. But I didn't know the woman that well. And so when the police asked me about her, there wasn't a whole lot of information I could give them. But soon after I was arrested, and my family and friends, and more importantly, Joel was bringing me information from their investigation that really pointed toward her, and kind of changed my opinion a little bit.
That replaced what a husband would be. It's honestly a relationship with two women who really aren't attracted to women. I don't know how to explain that. It's not, I'm attracted to men. Love everything about them. Can't wait till Magic Mike XL comes out. But she's the same way.
What I'm just curious, Joel or Russ, if you can tell me about, because I still don't understand how she got Betsy to sign that form, and I'm starting to wonder if it's ever been. Is there a part of this thing about Pam where they're trying to put out there the show on NBC that maybe it was forged? I mean, it seems like they did go to the library together. Do we know what exactly happened that day to get Betsy to agree to this? Do we know the full story on this yet, or am I missing something?
You're not missing anything. There's several different theories. One is it was forged, but we did have a handwriting analysis taken, and they couldn't say it was forged. Pam had been fired from 2 previous insurance agencies where forgeries were involved. So that's something that we take into consideration. Additionally, Betsy had told one of her best friends, a woman named Linda Hartman, that she was supposed to meet Pam that Friday. Pam was pressuring her to do something that she was uncomfortable doing. She may have been referring to this. I also know, and it's alluded to in the book, that Pam had been collecting money on this fake mission to raise money for another friend who was dying of cancer. And given Pam's trickery and what I have learned to be Betsy's what people have called her very gullible and trusting, I think Pam somehow tricked her into either signing it as some sort of security or simply that she was going to hold on to it and not do anything with it. I believe that the reason is she clearly intended to kill her that Tuesday. And I believe the reason she had to do it is because notification from the insurance company would go out, and Russ, who was the beneficiary, and Betsy, who was the insured, would receive some sort of notice. So it was signed on Friday. She killed her on Tuesday. It wasn't imaged in the system at the insurance company until Wednesday. And what we're dealing with is we had a weekend plus Christmas holiday. So I think Pam was trusting that no notice would be sent out, because once it was received, I think it would have quickly been revoked. With all that said, we still don't have any definitive proof of anything to this day. I think it is safe to say that Betsy, being in the insurance industry, all of her previous policies had her primary insured, had contingent beneficiaries as her sister, things of that nature, or her mother. In this case, it was Pamhupp and Pamhupp alone, and none of that makes any sense.
Yeah, and so with all of your research from doing this case, because when I watched all the datelines and it just seemed like this came out of the blue, that Pam had this crazy idea, but now it turns out she's been sort of leading up to this, like little crime, big crime, because you see the money laundering thing in this episode 5. What is that? And is it, as you look back, Joel, at kind of your research on her, was this something she was always? I mean, the show takes you back to 1989, shows them going to Florida. So there's obviously these hints of, hey, this is not something she just did on a December night. This is something she had been, in her mind, been thinking about, not killing someone to make money, but she's always trying to make money. What was the money laundering thing, and how far back did you think you saw her having this pattern?
The NBC attorneys are very cautious. They do not want to take on a lawsuit. There was another woman, and alluded to it when the younger Pam was at the pool and she had befriended an older woman. There is a close friend of Pam's who drowned in her bathtub. There was an allegation, and I have to stress allegation, that Pam received a significant benefit from that. There were then things done for that woman's child by Pam to help that child out. So there was a suspicious dead person who was friends with Pam, who it was ruled accidental, just like her mother's was, where Pam did benefit. However, to link her specifically to that, it's even much, much harder than it would have been to her mother's. Maybe she got more brazen, maybe she got more careless to think she could get away with these things, but that's what it's alluding to. Without going so far, I'm sure they filmed much more. The drowning and how the money is all wet. But I think their lawyers probably made them cut a significant portion out of that to avoid any lawsuit, which I also have to be careful, because I don't want to falsely, even though I strongly believe, I know Pam had something to do with Betsy. We know Louis Gumpenberger, and there is a significant chance that she had something to do with her mother's death. To jump to conclusions where I don't have absolute proof would be kind of doing what they did with Russ, and that's a little bit beyond the scope of what I can get into.
Yeah. Russ, have you had any conversations with Pam at all in the last ever? I mean, I don't. And what would you say if you could, if you had a chance to be in a room with her by herself or together?
Well, I don't think they want the two of us in a room together. But if I were to have the chance to say something to her, and I've been asked this a number of times recently, I have a one-word question, and it's why. Why me? Why my family? Why did she target me twice? I don't think we'll ever have that answer. And what you were asking about before with the insurance question and that, there's only two people that have the answer to that question. That's Pam and Betsy. One of them isn't around anymore. And Pam, you can't believe anything that comes out of her mouth. So I just would want to know why she did all the things that she did.
Yeah. How's your relationship with the daughters and Betsy's family? How are things these days?
That would be non-existent. Those people testified against me twice on the stand. They also stole $10,000 out of my bank account within an hour of me being arrested. That was because Officer Ryan McCarrick, remember him? He called them and let them know that I was in custody and they could go take my money. And then he also let Pam know so that she could go get the insurance money, told the insurance company. So that said, there's been apologies, and I'm not saying I don't forgive people, but that doesn't mean I want to be their friend and hang out with them anymore.
Yeah, I mean, as I watch the show, there's this sense of they're starting to sort of understand that you had nothing to do with this. So I was just curious. It felt like there might have been some reconciliation. I guess not.
Brad,
well, the only apology that I was ever offered was about 2 weeks after I became a millionaire. So that kind of tells me the sincerity of it.
Joel, you had something there?
Yeah, the show has portrayed one of his stepdaughters to be sympathetic to his plight. And that's sort of a made-for-TV moment. After he was convicted, Russ had indicated to me once we got him out that they had written him letters and he wanted to meet with them. Because they were witnesses, was forced to file a motion with the court to have some sort of supervised contact so there was no allegations of any improprieties. Leah Askey objected to that, and the judge, not knowing anything about the case, all he had in his mind is this man has been convicted of brutally stabbing this woman. He got out and now wants to meet with these girls, and the judge was going to have none of that at that point in time. The trial was merely about 3 months away, and his position was, let's just wait till after the trial. Well, after that, after Leah found out that they wanted to see Russ, she spent more time with them. The scene where they go to lunch is accurate. And she convinced the daughters once again, I don't know how, that Russ was actually behind this, and they testified against him once again. So as I've talked to Russ about it, it is not only did he become very wealthy once they initiated contact, it was also fool me once, shame on you, fool me twice, shame on me. And Russ simply wasn't going to have that. And it's unfortunate and it's sad.
Yeah. Lighter note, I mean, he looks just like Josh Duhamel, doesn't he, Russ? I mean, this is this is a spitting image, right? I mean, and Glenn Fleshler plays you. Have you been able to talk to Glenn and any of these characters that are playing you guys? I know Joel did. Did you get a chance to talk to your guy, Glenn, who seemingly is playing you? I'm curious, how do you feel like Glenn is playing you?
I think he's doing a really good job. I did have several extensive conversations with him for several hours on the phone. Naturally, because of COVID and things, we weren't able to meet in person. But he asked me a lot of questions, and we had some really good conversations so he could get an idea of how to play my character properly. And I think he's doing a really good job of it. I think all of the actors are doing fine. And kudos to Renee Zellweger. I mean, I said early on when they announced that they were going to make this thing, I was interviewed by one of the local reporters. And I said, well, I find Renee Zellweger an attractive woman and Pam not. So they're going to have to ugly her up quite a bit. And kudos to the makeup artist on that one.
This, the dialect of Pam with the Slurpee and then we got Josh playing the guitar, going to the motel. Did you actually go to that Green Gables motel, Joel? That looked like a real stunning place?
Russ will tell you the first time I met him, I brought my guitar in and I sang some Jim Croce and James Taylor to him, and we just had a little kumbaya moment. When they showed Josh or myself for the first time, and my associate Nate handed me my guitar, walking into the Green Gables. First of all, there is no Green Gables that I'm aware of anyway, and second of all, I've never brought my guitar with me to try a case, to meet a client. I think now they wish that they had more than the 6 episodes because of, number one, the popularity of the show and people's appetite for it. And they wanted to expand on some of the stuff regarding Russ. They wanted to expand on the emotional arc that I went through. And I know Josh was a little frustrated about that. They actually even had a scene of my band that they cut out. So I love it ending with people wanting more, but I wish there was more for people to have.
Yeah. Russ, how indebted are you to Joel? And then Joel, same thing. I mean, not to make this about you, Joel, but it does help when you have a wonderful story book ending, which you have with Russ. Just kind of give me a little bro hug here via Zoom. But go ahead and tell me a little bit about each other, your relationship these days.
Well, I wouldn't be here without the help of Joel and many others, but Joel was instrumental and did such a fine job. I haven't had an opportunity to witness very many criminal cases, but he performed exquisitely in both trials, even though in the first one he kind of had his arm tied behind his back by the judge. Consequently, Joel and I have built a wonderful friendship, and I'm happy and proud to call Joel my friend, in addition to being my attorney.
Joel, thoughts on Russ?
Can't stand him. Russ, I second what he said. We're actually we're doing an engagement, but we're going to Las Vegas together in a few weeks to speak. We'll have a great time. We've had many good times. It's a shame the way that we had to meet and what he had to go through. But as far as the storybook ending, they do allude to that at least a bit in the series. I was determined to make this a storybook ending. What is unfortunate is that nobody listened to me. And had they at the start, Pam's mother, had she been healthy enough, would still be alive today. And Louis Gumpenberger would certainly still be alive today. And none of us would be meeting. So as far as Russ and my relationship, and as far as Russ is concerned, it is a storybook ending. My heart goes out to the girls, and Betsy's mother and her sisters. My heart goes out to Louis Gumpenberger's family. That's all a shame, and it was all unnecessary. But Russ and I are very close, and I think he and I, once I'm retired, no longer his attorney, we will still remain very close and good friends, and it's been great.
Well, again,
I keep trying to get him to retire so he can go travel with me, but
yeah, I mean, we're getting close, right? I mean, Joel, you were going to be an actor. I'm reading in your book. You were almost in White Palace, which is famously filmed here. But maybe this is the way that it happens, where maybe you're not supposed to be an actor. There's supposed to be this gentleman who's a big star who looks just like you in the show. That's how it was supposed to be.
As they said at the end of Game of Thrones, you are exactly where you are supposed to be and doing what you're supposed to be doing. It's a shame that they had to get a little nerdy guy to play me, but I understand. I'm an old dog. I'm 60 years old. It's a little late for new tricks, but I'm enjoying the things that are coming my way. There are speaking engagements. There's some other things in the works that hopefully will develop and take off from here. And this series that you're seeing is not the end of the story. I will also I don't know when this airs, but there is a Dateline airing this Friday night, and it will be jaw-dropping and eye-opening.
On this?
Yes.
Oh, my goodness, what a plug. Well, I'll be watching.
It'll be the 6th one.
I was going to say, it feels like there's many more to come now from the things we've just kind of mentioned about the history. Joel wrote the book, Bone Deep, Untangling the Betsy Faria murder case. I appreciate it. It's so good. You should read it if you like this story. I see a lot of people commenting that they bought it. I thank you, Joel. Russ, I'm going to give you the last word. And I wanted to say, I told Joel on this first time we talked, it's like the older I get, the more I see these cases of people who who are wrongly convicted, it just makes you so angry, and you get so angry with the world and the system, and the fact that it worked out for you and it worked out for Ryan Ferguson. I want to give you the last word, and again, apologies. Again, it's been 12 years, but I'm sure a day goes by where you miss your wife. But just you get the last word. And again, I'm glad that we got the chance to talk. But it's good to hear this story out there. Tell us the last word here.
I think for a good last word, if anybody ever finds themselves in a similar situation, just persevere and stay patient and stay strong. And I hope that some of the things that I'm doing are going to help others down the road. That's my goal in life. If you want to donate to a good cause, donate to the Innocence Project, and just keep yourself aware of things that are going on around you, because it could happen to anybody.
Yeah, are you working? Are we doing the Tuesday game nights? Give us a little update. What are we doing here in 2022?
Well, we're all kind of busy right now in life, so the game nights aren't really happening. But I do help a friend of mine run his motorcycle shop locally here in town. It's called All Lubed Up Cycles. We're in St. Charles. And I enjoy doing that. I kind of do run the office there and turn a wrench once in a while. But it's a fun job, and I enjoy it.
Awesome.
I'm also engaged to a very beautiful woman by the name of Carol McAfee, and she's part of this story. You're going to see her in tonight's episode. She's one of the people that Pam targeted.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. I mean, I'm sorry to tell you how captivating the story is. You have a crazy woman on this side that is making it captivating, but she's getting her just due, it seems like, and is going to live kind of a terrible life at the end here. So I'm sorry it happened to you, but again, this is a good chance for you to tell a story. It seems like, like I said, storybook ending. I appreciate you guys doing this again. Who knows? Maybe we'll catch up after Friday's Dateline. We may have some more things to talk about, right?
Absolutely. It's been a lot of fun, Brad. Anytime you want to do it, I think I can speak for Russ and myself. We'd both be happy to come back on.
Yes, thanks for the opportunity.
All right. Well, I thank Russ, and I thank Joel, and I thank you for watching. This is Here's the Pitch, sponsored by Masses Restaurant St. Louis, 5 locations, stlmasses.com. Check them out on the web if you're driving through St. Louis, and we'll see you next time.